I want to talk about Linux in this video. Now, the first thing we got to understand about Linux and a lot of other programs is what is open source and what is copyleft. So, here is how it works. I'm going to put this Linux in what's called a virtual machine. Don't worry about it. I'll talk about virtual machines in a different video later. But here it is in this window, and I'm just going to have to put in my password. And unlock it. Now, before we get into what Linux is, we got to get into what open source is. Open source means that the source code of your program, which is this. Look at this program. You really got to just look at it. All this stuff is the source code for the program. The main part, we don't need to worry about return equals 0. We don't need to worry about int main or include st0. What we're really concerned with in this program is printf hello world. Don't worry about those ends. So what happens is there's the source code. Obviously, it's a lot more complicated for making something like Linux or an Office replacement. There's things like an if statement. You could say if this equals that, then do a different thing. But we're not going to be concerning ourselves with that. We're going to be working with the most basic program that can be. And in any programming language, this one's called C, but there are other languages that you can program in that have different types of source code. In this one, in all of them, the first thing you learn is a program called Hello World. And all it does is print Hello World on the screen. So we're going to use this program that makes Hello World. Now, you can see how that works. It's going to say printf. Don't worry about the F. Basically print. And then this is basically a new line. So it goes enter Hello World and then 2 more enters. New lines. So you have to do something called compiling it. I'm not going to concern myself with that, and we're going to go to what's called a command line. Don't worry about it. It's not something for beginners. But I'm just going to run hello, and look what it did. Look what it did. Exactly what we said. It put new lines like we wanted, and it says hello world. So that's what source code is. It's a program like this. Then the computer won't run it, so you've got to do a thing called compiling it, and then you run it, and it does what you told it to do. It can do lots of things like make windows like this, different types of windows. I don't mean windows like Microsoft Windows, but windows like this window or that window, etc. Everything that you use on a computer has source code. Now, there's open source and closed source. Windows, for example, is closed source. You cannot see the source code, which I just showed you, the programming stuff that makes Windows work. It's a secret. The same with Mac, the same with Office, the same with lots and lots of programs. In fact, even free programs like WinZip, they don't show you the source code. They give it to you for free, but you cannot see how they programmed it to work. In the Linux world and the quote unquote open source world, they what they do is they let you see all that stuff, all that source code, to how Linux works, to how a program like LibreOffice or OpenOffice, which are replacements for Microsoft Office, they let you see the source code. And the benefit to that is that any programmer in the world can look at that source code, and because they're good programmers, they can say, oh, here's an addition or a better way or something new to put into the source code in order to make it run better or have new features. And that's kind of how Linux works. It has source code available to everybody, and thousands and thousands of programmers look at the source code and improve it. So what I'm using here is called Xubuntu. There's lots of Linux. Because why? Because everybody can see the source code, and lots of companies make their own. There's Ubuntu, there is OpenSUSE, there's Red Hat, there's Fedora, there's Arch Linux, there's Mint Linux. But I like this Xubuntu, which is a derivative of Ubuntu that they programmers made using the original Ubuntu version of Linux for a couple of reasons. Number one, it looks a lot like Windows, and it kind of works a lot like Windows. Number two, it uses a lot, very, very few system resources, so it works great on older computers. One of the main differences is that the menu is at the top instead of the bottom, okay? So let's look at how Linux works. By the way, copy left. That means that if you take the Linux source code or anything that is open source, most things that are open source, you have to then make your changes that you've done to it also be open source. It's called the GNU public license, and it says that you cannot make a change and publish it unless you also publish the source code to the changes that you made. So you cannot, for example, take Linux and put it in Windows or Mac as an operating system, because then you would have to publish the source code for Windows or Mac or Office or whatever it is you use that source code to enhance. There's a different kind of source code license. It's called the BSD license. Also a very similar one, which is simpler, called the MIT license. MIT is in the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And that source code says, oh, yes, you can take our source code and you can enhance your product with it and not show what you've done with the source code that we had. So MIT and BSD that say you don't have to show the source code with your enhancements, what they do, what that is not copyleft. What Linux does in the GNU public license is where you have to show your source code if you enhance your product with it, and that's called copyleft. It's the exact opposite of copyright. With copyright, you make what you've done private so that nobody else can copy it. With copyleft, you absolutely must show what you did to make your changes or enhancements. All right? So Linux is under the GNU, it's copy left. So let's look at it. It kind of looks similar to Windows or Mac. We've got a folder here, we've got a hard drive icon here, we've got the trash or aka recycle bin, and we've got a little menu right here. Okay, look at the menu. It's organized into different categories, accessories. The one that I used to show you the source code was mousepad. You've got a calculator also. You've got a thing that changes your fonts. You've got the file manager, which again is going to be similar to Mac Finder or Microsoft Windows Explorer, not Internet Explorer, but just regular Explorer. You've got Notes, which is going to allow you to take notes, how to take a screenshot, Terminal Emulator, which is what you saw before with the command line interface, which I said you don't need to worry about as a beginner. You've got all that stuff. So you've got the menu. It already comes pre-installed with stuff you might need, like, guess what? Already comes pre-installed with Firefox. It already comes installed with Pigeon, which is a instant messaging program that is compatible with AOL Instant Messenger, Yahoo Instant Messenger, and a bunch of other instant messaging protocols, you might call it, and a couple of other things. You've got an Office option. Office. So we're going to click Office. Now we've got LibreOffice, including Calc, which is like Excel, Draw, which is like Visio, Impress, which is like PowerPoint, and Writer, which is like Microsoft Word. You've got LibreSoft Office Math, which allows you to do math problems in algebra or calculus. As far as I know, Microsoft Office doesn't have an option for that. And all these LibreOffice programs are compatible with Microsoft. If you save a like Microsoft Calc document, it will be loadable by Microsoft Excel. If you save a Writer document, then Microsoft Word can look at it and translate it and put it back into Word. If you use Impress, then that will be compatible with Microsoft PowerPoint. Okay? It's all open source. You can look at the programming and programming language that they did all of this with. That's how they got so good, is because everyone can look at the programming language, and people all over the world that are programmers have made improvements. Why do people do closed source like Windows or Office, or even freeware stuff like WinZip? Well, what they do is they've got lots of programmers in their company that they pay instead of voluntarily offering improvements. And so what they do is they pay them to make the improvements. All right. So the next thing we're going to work on is, what if I want a new program? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go to Settings, Display. You can change your desktop background and so forth. A lot of you, even beginners, know how to do that. I've noticed in my 20-year career as an IT guy. So we're going to look at right here, Software and Updates, and we might look at the Software Updater as well. But we're going to start with Software Updates. We're going to click the menu again. We're going to go to Settings, and we're going to scroll down and we're going to look at software. Nope, we don't want software updater. Well, let's go ahead and start with that. It's checking for updates, which means there's new things for Linux, or not just Linux, but all the programs you have installed. It's saying there's updates. I'm going to just go ahead and show you the details of the updates. It's saying there's new stuff for Firefox. There's new stuff for, you probably don't need to worry about what the rest of this stuff is. There's a new update for the Ubuntu core, which Xubuntu is built on. And you just click install now if you want to install those updates. Now, I'm not going to do that now because it would take time. I'm just going to say, remind me later. I'm going to click I am going to click the menu icon again. My mouse keeps moving because I move it out of this virtual machine window. Again, don't worry what a virtual machine is. I'll talk about those in a later video. So, I'm going to go down to software. Look what I've got. There's editor's picks of software. I could install all this stuff. Thunderbird is kind of like Outlook. This is kind of like a program that lets you put an Xbox or PlayStation controller onto your to use with Linux if you're going to play games. And you've got this other stuff. Now, what if I'm looking for something in particular? Well, I click the search button. Let's say I want a different internet browser. I'm going to type in internet browser. And what Software Update is going to do is give me a bunch of other internet browsers. Now, I've already got Firefox, but it's going to recommend that I also get this thing called Chromium. It's going to recommend that I could have this other internet browser called Calibri. All these have been rated with a certain number of stars. You could go in and look at what the ratings are all about. But all of these are internet browsers that you could use with Linux. The same goes for, let's just type in games. What's going to happen? There's a bunch of games. We don't want to worry about what these games are. You probably, as a beginner, are not familiar with a lot of games. But here they are. Solitaire, I'm sure you're familiar with. I can install Solitaire. Let's do it. I'm going to click Solitaire. I'm going to click install. I'm going to put in my password because Linux does not allow you to make big changes without a password, because what if someone else is on your computer and trying to do something nefarious? They would need to have your password. So I put my password in to install, wrong password, to install Solitaire. There we go. I'll click authenticate, and here it goes. It's installing. What it does is it actually downloads it from the internet and puts it on your Linux computer. Okay, again, Linux is a replacement for Microsoft Windows or Macintosh operating system, and this particular one I've chosen is what's called light on resources, which means it runs great on older computers. And it's at 99%. Come on, let's go to 100%. What are you doing? Oh, downloaded 99%. Now it's installing 85 at 99%. The installing is going to take a little bit. Oh, it goes back. I'm sure you've seen that on a waiting bar before. It says 2 minutes, and then it says 5 minutes, and then it says 1 minute, and then it says 30 minutes, and they go back and forth. There's lots of reasons for that. I'm not going to get into it. Now I could click launch right here to get it. But I have, again, this little menu, and I click games, and look, Solitaire is now in my menu for games. I can click it right here. I'm just going to close this. Oh, I don't need to do that. And look, there's Solitaire. And I can play it. Let's put the 10 of clubs on the Jack of hearts and the Jack of hearts on the Queen of spades. Double click the Ace of clubs and it goes. So this Solitaire game is working, right? And most of the stuff that you can install with this software menu that you search for stuff on is going to be, again, open source. People who are programmers can find the program that makes this, the source code, and they can add to it, enhance it, make new features, make it better in some way, or to run faster, or use less memory. So it's all open source. At least I would say 95% of the programs you find in here. And they're free. You don't have to pay for any of this stuff. You don't have to pay for your games. They're all free. If I type in Office, I'm going to find some things that are kind of like Office stuff that's all free. It's all free. It's all open source. I'm going to type in Internet browser again. Okay, Chromium, Firefox, these other stuff. It's all free. You don't have to pay for it. And it's all open source, meaning that you, if you're a programmer or any other programmer, can go get that source code that we saw before and enhance it. And that's how these programs work. Programmers from all around the world enhance this stuff, and they don't charge. They just do it for fun. All right, let's get rid of this. I'm going to close the software updater. Well, does Firefox on Linux really work? Well, let's figure it out. Internet, Firefox web browser. Well, here it is. I'm going to go to google.com. There it is. It works. Oh, I wonder if it can play videos. Let's go to YouTube. YouTube. Oh, it's right here. YouTube.com. Here's the YouTube. Let's play a video. I don't know what this is, but check it out. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's playing the video. It's got the advertisement. I skipped the advertisement. Here goes the video. It has sound. It has everything. It works just fine. Let's close that because the noise is annoying. So all this stuff on Linux works great. Let's look at the file browser. I can click Home, which is my files. And there it is. It's just like Internet Explorer or Macintosh Finder. I've got all my documents, downloads. Now this is new, so I don't have any of these. But there they are. I can look at this stuff. Oh, I put that hello stuff into my downloads. Let's just once again take a look at the source code. Again, this is what source code is. It looks like this. And programmers know what all this stuff does. They know what this include thing means. They know what this int main thing means. They know what return 0 means. And of course, I explained what printf means. Okay? They know all that stuff and more. We're going to close these things. So Linux works a lot like Microsoft Office, or it works like Mac OS, but it's free. And so if you want to have, Microsoft 10, if you have Microsoft 8 or you got a computer without Microsoft on it, or you're using on Macintosh what's called Boot Camp or VMware, you got to pay for Microsoft 10. And it costs about $150. Macintosh, you got to buy a Macintosh computer because Macintosh operating system does not work on any computer other than Macintosh. And so you have to buy the Macintosh computer in order to get the Macintosh operating system. Linux, it's free for everything. As a matter of fact, I have a really old Macintosh laptop where the Macintosh operating system, Mac OS X, was very slow. And I tried to install Windows on it. I paid $150 for Windows. Very slow. Then I installed Ubuntu, Xubuntu, which is, again, lighter on resources than most other types of Linux. And that Macintosh laptop started to work just great. So there it is. That's what Linux is. That's what open source is. And don't forget to click that subscribe button down below. Like this video. And again, if you like this video and you like my channel, right next to subscribe, there's going to be a little bell. If you click that bell, you'll get a notification on YouTube every time I publish a new video. All right, you guys, I'm going to say goodbye now and have a great day. And thanks for watching the video.